Why don't you want to talk about the Super Bowl, Jake?
Because I'm not putting any emphasis on anything happening.
Why is that? Anything happening? I mean, you know what the Steelers record is. I know what the Steelers record is.
Eagles are pretty good too. But you know what, Jake?
That's
this week we're going to turn the clock back to 1965, back when gas was 38 cents a gallon and LBJ was in the White House. Before the Super Bowl was even a thing. This is back when we had the AFL title and the NFL title. That's the last time the Steelers beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. We talked about this a few weeks ago. 1965.
What other 65 references are you going to pull out?
1965.
Back when mustaches like Brendan were popular.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew there was
Hold
gonna
on
be
a
a
second. Hold on a second.
Hey,
Hold on a
Mashberry,
second.
man.
Can we pause? You didn't want to do Movember.
I was thinking the same thing.
And now I'm looking at your face with a mustache.
It wasn't by design.
It's Paul Skeens.
Explain yourself.
I usually trim my beard with my dad's beard trimmer. I don't have my own, so I'd drive back to my dad's house and like trim it there. And I went. Why is that crickets?
Because I'm bored by this story. Because frankly,
I'm confused.
I'm just confused, and I'm upset.
Not bored.
I'm
I got
upset.
questions.
My dad,
upset.
he didn't have like the number 2, like the length, and so I took like a hair trimmer, like give haircuts.
And you messed up.
And I tried to shave my beard that way, and it made it super uneven. And I was like, just gotta shave it all off now. It'll grow back.
Yeah,
So-
but you didn't do the mustache too, so it was an intentional move.
because it looks better with the mustache and without it.
Your face?
I think so. Yeah, I like to look better.
I've heard of going back to your parents to do laundry like post graduation, but I've not heard of going back to your parents to shave. That's a new one.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pyda. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howe and Eagle Sports editor Jake Merda Adams.
Today's episode is sponsored by Robert Stevens Custom Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting Eye on Sports. Dad, can I come over and borrow your razor? I need to trim my beard.
I remember
I'm gonna bring some laundry too.
since
And my
Brendan embarrassed
girlfriend.
himself,
I do my laundry at Bailey's. So
And there it is. I think we should have a game each week. How long until he mentions Bailey?
Bailey. He's in that
I'll
honey.
just stop mentioning her, and she'll be mad.
He's in that honeymoon.
I'll
phase
I
win.
right
know.
now.
I'll win.
No,
She
you
doesn't need to be
won't.
mad.
We'll mention her. We'll be like, "How's Bailey?"
Hey.
Hey.
I don't think she's too hot on the mustache, but oh well.
Oh man, if I tried to grow one, Mallory would rip it off my face.
Oh.
If I had any interest
You'll
whatsoever,
rip
in
it
growing
off
one.
your
You
face.
said you
Oh, yeah.
couldn't grow
That'd
one.
be
I
great.
can't. If I could,
Really? I don't know. It looks like you
With
got like
that
a good
mustache,
stubble going
it
on
would
up
be-
there.
yeah,
Great.
this is 2 days.
It would be great if you and Bailey were out
I'm kidding.
public like
I
at a
told you.
restaurant, and somebody came up to you and asked you for your autograph because he thought you were Paul Skeens.
I thought you were gonna say something different.
Please. What would you do? What would you try to like?
He'd sign Paul Skeens.
I'm not as tall as Paul Skeens.
I was gonna say you need to grow several inches.
I definitely can't throw a baseball that hard.
Oh, they're not going to ask you to throw. Just sign
Yeah.
my baseball, Mr. Skeens.
If they have a baseball with them, that's
So if you did sign it, would you be like, "What's your name?" Would you just sign your name, or you'd sign like? Would there be like a quote with
It'd be
it?
funny. He'd
I've
sign
never
I
it-
have to
thought about
research
this.
this and
He'd
find
sign
out
it
how he
Paul
signs
Howe
things.
instead of like Paul Skeens. He'd like mess up and it'd be Paul Howe.
my dad's
instead.
name is actually Paul Howe.
There you go. Perfect.
What?
This works
That's
out
funny.
great. I love this.
That's great.
The top stories we've had this year in
Okay.
the Butler Eagle,
Oh,
all written by me.
so you're gonna
I'm kidding.
look at Derek just staring at you. So is that a piece that you're doing, talking about them, or
steal it
is that
for
what
you.
you're just
we
doing?
do it every year.
Brendan Howe's team drops 2 games on in the Turkey Bowl 2024. That should be like
Ooh.
top story of the year.
Should throw that in there as a
What's
nomination.
that for?
I would like. We should throw it in, and someone votes for it as like number 15. Just one vote.
Hey, why not?
Nobody wrote a story about it though.
So tell the audience that's listening, when can they anticipate to see this? It's going to be in the paper. It's going to be online.
Sometime between Christmas and New Year's. We haven't said the date yet.
Okay, so sometime
Yeah.
between Christmas and New Year's. All right, so maybe we'll.
Typically, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Run to your
December 30th, give or
mailboxes.
take.
New Year's Eve, somewhere around there. 41 years ago today, Terry Bradshaw's last game, December 10th, 1983. Saturday matinee game against the Jets at Shea Stadium. He was hurt that whole year, hadn't played. Steelers were on a 3-game losing streak. We're on the verge of being knocked out of the playoff race. He comes back in, attempts 8 passes, completes 5 before he goes out with an injury. But 2 of those 5 passes were for touchdowns. Steelers beat the Jets 34-7, clinch an AFC playoff berth. In that game, hey, there's more. Oh, there's more. That game was also the Jets' last game. that game was actually the Jets' last game at Shea Stadium. So there's a lot of history involved in that game. It's really
Oh wow, okay. And then Shea Stadium lived for another 30 years.
yeah. The
That's
next year,
dumb.
by the next year, the Jets had moved into Giants Stadium with the Giants, the Meadowlands. I think we should let our listeners and viewers know that this week we are unveiling the Fall Sports All-Stars, beginning with the boys soccer,
Tuesday, girls soccer,
Wednesday, Thursday,
girls volleyball.
and Friday is football. We all
Brendan,
had
don't look excited.
to look at the stats and the accomplishments of these kids to pick the first team, and the meeting was contentious. I think there were a few punches thrown, but we came out
The
of it
Christmas
with
wreath was knocked off the window in the conference room.
we came out of it with a first team for each sport and honorable mentions. But I want to get you guys' thoughts of exactly what went into the selection process and some of the kids who made it, and your thoughts on the talent that's going to be featured in the paper this week. All right, Brendan, soccer, football, and volleyball, what are your thoughts on the talent that's going to be featured in the paper this week?
So in terms of, I'll start with football. We saw this start the season. I know that you guys are kind of used to this, having done this for longer than I have. But obviously, high school, college sports, they come in waves. Like, you kind of know the stars at a certain point, and they graduate out, and then new ones come in. And that was really evident this year, especially Amos Glenn from Freeport came out of nowhere. There were other guys on the football team that I really hadn't had an idea of before the season. So I know you guys have seen guys come through, but for me it was different seeing a lot of different names, not just in football, in soccer, girls volleyball with Marza Setter, Gabby Weideman. She was one of the girls that kind of cycled in. I thought that was really cool to see some of the younger kids or younger players on these teams make it into these teams.
Jake, your thoughts?
So I think the 3 non-football players of the year that we picked, and by the time this comes out, this episode drops Thursday morning, we'll have all 3 of these having published in the paper and online. If you didn't get the paper or you haven't checked online in the last few days, you can go to butlereagle.com/section/sports to find all these, and football will drop on Friday as well, online, in print too. The players of the year, I think we all kind of quickly realized, yeah, these were the best players. Like, their resume stacked up well enough that we didn't have too much of a debate on who is number one. We had Tyler Prex, Tuesday's boys soccer player of the year, second time in a row. We have Simone Sharpless for North Catholic girls soccer, who had 28 goals, 14 assists, big numbers for a good North Catholic team. And Cecilia Christie, Mars girls volleyball. Best player on the best team in the county and the team that went the farthest and made history along the way. And she set records, program records in the process. She's going to probably go play college at some point or in a year when she graduates in 2026. Like, all 3 of them were, I wouldn't say head and shoulders above everyone else, but they were really, really good. They deserved their spots. There wasn't a ton of debate. I mean, some coaches, some players might disagree with us, and that's fine. That's kind of the point of this, is we do the best we can to put the list together that we think is, the top team, the top starting lineup of players in the county. But everyone's gonna have a different opinion on that. But I think those 3 were pretty solid. And obviously, Friday we don't have a player of the year in football that publishes, but we had some pretty good debate with who was going to be first team. Sweet 16 in offense, Sweet 16 defense. We even had to decide, a couple of them. We had so many quarterbacks this year that put up some numbers. It's like, well, we can't really have a starting lineup of 6 quarterbacks. Yeah. So let's move some of them. Owen Bish, for example, great safety, great defensive player. He fits better on the Sweet 16 defense because we had a glut of quarterbacks, but we also had kind of a dearth of defensive backs. So it kind of fit well. It's like, okay, he needs to be on the team somewhere.
Right.
We're going to mention that he was a really good quarterback, but he also was a really, really good safety.
Pulling out that thesaurus today and see.
Yeah.
See glutton dearth. I'm going to have to type it in my vocabulary notes.
I was going to mention about Union AC Valley. Actually, all three of the players that made it, Owen Bish, Max Gallagher, and Colbin Elliott, they all made our defensive all-star team. All very easily could have made the offensive team, but what we don't like the overlap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to recognize as many kids as we can. So if a kid had a great year as a safety, as Bish did, and as a quarterback, as Bish did, we pick one team and put them on there because, there's some guys who made our offensive team who really weren't
don't play defense or not
good on not stalwarts on defense. So Owen Bish, Max Gallagher, and Colbin Elliott all could have made our offensive team, but they also had great years on defense. But we also made a point, if a player made the defensive team and he had a great year offensively, we make sure we make note of that in the little write-up they get. Conversely, if a player makes the offensive team and he had a great defensive year, we throw those stats on there too. So I also want to point out the way we did it this year, the honorable mentions, we had some really good talent with those honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're not just trying to say, oh, well, here, we'll throw this kid honorable. The honorable mentions, you make a team out of those kids, you've got a pretty solid team. We just only had so many spots, and the honorable mentions should definitely be noticed too, because Riley Woldridge, I saw her play, how many times I covered Morris volleyball here this year? 6? I mean, she's a great player. But there was only, I think, 7 spots on the volleyball team, and there's other really good players around the county. So honorable mentions absolutely deserve some attention too, and we made sure that the players who made honorable mention were certainly deserving of recognition.
Yeah, it was kind of told you guys when we do this, let's make it like we have a first team and a second team. Like, think of these as all-star teams. Honorable mention is different from second team in name, but it was kind of the same theory. Let's put the 1A team out there and the 1B team out there, or at least as close to like full rosters as we could get. What was Brendan? I'll throw this to you. What was like the most entertaining or most engaging or most intriguing debate that you had with us, with any one of the teams, whether it was soccer, volleyball, or football? Which part of it were you most kind of into?
I think we had a few girls on the girls' soccer team that, and I know you said Simone Sharpless, like her stats set out, but there were girls behind her that had really good stats as well. Obviously, hers were the best. North Catholic had some success. I think that was the team. We knew Tyler Parks was going to be boys soccer player of the year, and girls volleyball player of the year. Celia Christie, most impactful player on the best team, who had the most success. Yeah. Girls soccer was the one that had girls kind of in that echelon that could have been the top player, but were just beat out.
Sharpless, just the thing that put me over the top with her was her balance.
Yeah.
It wasn't her 13 assists or 14 assists. It wasn't her 28 goals. It was those two things combined for a really good team. I mean, North Catholic's girls soccer team's been good for a while, and they put in another good year this year. So she was the top player on a really good team, and she had really balanced numbers.
I think the other thing that stood out with the girls soccer team is I believe that was the only first team that had a freshman on it with Van Dyke from Carn City. I think I kind of mentioned something along the lines of she put up numbers as a freshman.
Gabby Weideman for volleyball.
Gabby Weideman, that's it. Yeah, I missed that one. My bad.
He's not listening to what I'm saying over here.
he didn't realize she was a freshman. Sometimes I get years mixed up. How old am I? I don't know. What year did I graduate? I have no clue.
But both of them, though, like actually that's a good point with Weideman. Both of them, though, put up numbers that we could easily talk ourselves into. They maintain that or build on it. And in a year, 2 years, 3 years, we're talking player of the year candidates as well.
I'll say that. I mean, Carn City girls soccer is always good. What did they win this year? 26. They have now 26 district titles in 30 years, I think it is.
Yes.
But you look at what they got coming back next year.
Sovereignty.
Hannah Daly, who is, she's going to be, I think, a senior next year.
I have the list up now.
Phoebe Brandon's going to be back as a junior. She's really good. And they got this.
Going to be a senior, yep.
Caitlin Van Dyke coming back next year, who just turned in a great freshman season. They do have to replace, I believe, Savannah Prescott at goalie, but. They're going to have some talent coming back next year. in the field. So we'll see how they do. That's almost a year away, though. So don't want to wish away the next 11 months.
One thing I want to mention too is I laid out yesterday's pages or today's pages for boys soccer. I'm a chunk of the way through girls soccer, and we were working on the photos and everything for and links and everything for the other stories. Some of the photos we got this year. Good job by Rob and Morgan and the team. I liked some of the stuff that we saw.
Full-time photographers Rob McGraw and Morgan Phillips.
Support local journalism so that way we can have these photographers continue to do this great work, because a paper this size does not typically have 2 full-time photographers. We are extremely lucky to have that.
You ever see the papers from like 100 years ago, or maybe like the turn of the 20th century, where the front of it there's no pictures. I mean, it's just literally just text. Every once in a while there's like a big headline, but like it's just text.
And most of them are like this one story starts on top of the left column and continues until whatever it ends, and then there's like another headline that goes there, and it's just it's not blocks, it's just rows going across the page. It's so weird. But I also enjoy sometimes reading like old baseball coverage, like old baseball coverage from like New York and whatnot, where everything is just this very like glitzy 30s,
Grantland Rice.
Grantland Rice. You know who Grantland Rice is?
I do, the Four Horsemen of Notre Dame.
There you go.
I've actually tried Googling like some of his work because I like the way that he wrote that at least.
Oh yeah.
And there's like not catalogs online of his writing. Like you figure with him being like one of the most famous writers ever that there would be a library of his writing, and nope, no one cares.
You got to get a subscription to newspapers.com and search his name, and I'm not even sure how much of that you'll find.
Newspapers.com. I didn't know that was
you can get PDFs of the pages.
Can you find my name in there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're a star.
It's literally like PDFs of the pages, and a lot of newsrooms are, especially like the bigger legacy ones, are trying to put more and more going back. Like New York Times is a lot older than many papers, for example. But
I didn't know that was a thing. Newspapers by ancestry. Experience the headlines like they did.
We know how he's going to spend his weekend.
I got a full day off.
Sorry, Bailey. I've got to read newspapers.com.
Ion Sports Podcast is proudly participating in Movember's annual fundraising campaign, which encourages people to sign up at Movember.com, grow a mustache, move to commit to walking or running 60 miles, host a virtual event, or mow your own way.
Mow Your Own Way is a choose-your-own-adventure activity and allows people to pick how they want to support Movember. The new challenge could include riding your motorcycle across the country or doing 100 burpees, and allows supporters to participate and not be limited by what they want to do.
All the support will change the face of men's health, raising funds and awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer.
The Ion Sports Podcast team, along with Butler Eagle Sports writers, have a goal to raise $1,000 for the month of Movember. The charity raises funds to deliver innovative breakthrough research and support programs that enable men to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. Committed to disrupting the status quo, millions have joined the movement, helping to fund over 1,250 projects around the world.
In addition to tackling key health issues faced by men, Movember is working to encourage men to stay healthy in all areas of their life, with a focus on men staying socially connected and becoming more open to discussing their health in significant moments in their lives.
The charity's vision is to have everlasting impact on the face of men's health. To donate or learn more, please visit Movember.com. Movember is a registered 501c3 charity. To donate to our fundraising goal, click the link in our story or bio. Help us at Alter Eagles Eye on Sports reach our goal of $1,000 towards Movember for men's health.
On behalf of myself, Eagle Sports writer and host Derek Pyda.
I am Eagle Sports writer Brendan Howe.
And I'm Eagle Sports editor Jake Merda Adams.
Thank you.
We are being joined this week on the Ion Sports Podcast by Seneca Valley hockey coach Tyler Mesisca. The Raiders have won 7 of their 8 games this season and currently sit in second place in the PIHL Class 3A standings. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are doing this. I'm excited to sit down and talk a little hockey with you guys. So thanks for having me.
So more than half of your schedule remains. 12 games remain on your regular season schedule. But your team has looked good so far. Goals have been spread out. 8 players with at least 3 goals, 6 players with at least 4 assists. 2 goalies, Matthew Gilchrist and Christopher Nichols, have already earned wins in net. Have there been any pleasant surprises, Tyler, on the team so far this season, or has the production come from expected sources?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of both. I think coming into this year, we definitely had some players that we knew would kind of step in and carry the offense for us a little bit, and they have so far. Marshall Hewitt is a guy that we kind of expected to step up in that role. Johnny Soroka, Jimmy Mertha, all these guys kind of stepped in and gave us some offense. Andrew Malichki, I'll talk about him in a bit, but I think one kid in particular that I don't want to say flies under the radar, but at least not for us. But maybe if you look at production wise, other teams might see that and not think much. It's Carter Hayne. So he's a defenseman for us, and he's one guy that's really kind of stepped in this year and really has been the driving force of our team. And what I mean by that is we play a real fast style that we want to get in the offensive zone and play as much as we can down there. And when Carter's on the ice, it is noticeable, and we are a different team when he's out there, and he's done it all. He plays really big 5-on-5 minutes. He plays power play. He does penalty kill. So he's kind of he's really stepped up this year. He's a junior now, so he's kind of evolved into one of our top D-men that we have this year, and he's been a force for us. And then you look at, like I said, Andrew Malichki. He's another kid that he's third year now on the team, and I think last year and years prior he was kind of played more of the third line center, second line center type role where he was responsible defensively, and we could always count on him for that. And he was always a good penalty killer, but he has really stepped in this year and kind of helped the offensive side of his game has really blossomed a lot. So he's obviously leading our team in points, and he's been a huge part of our success. And him in his line with Jimmy Mertha and Tyler Garvin have really been driving us a lot. So those are two guys, and it's really just everybody that's kind of stepped in. Braden Marin's another guy. He's a 10th grader. He's came in from the JV team last year, and he's stepped in, kind of find his spot on the team is in the top 6 role. He's been scoring for us a good bit. And then like you said, you mentioned the goaltenders. Chris Nichols has really we've been really excited about what we've seen with him, and we knew we had a really good tandem coming in this year, and they've been all that we've expected. So yeah, it's been a really good start, and everybody's kind of finding their way to contribute, and yeah, it's been good so far. So we definitely looking to keep that going for sure.
And we're going to get into some more details about this year's team in just a bit, but I did want to get your background in hockey, Tyler. I know this is your first season as Seneca Valley's head coach, but you have deep roots with the program. Tell us about your previous involvement with Raiders hockey.
Yeah, so I'm a Seneca grad myself. I graduated in 2010, and I've been playing, I guess, 6th grade. I started playing at Seneca Valley. Back then, I think there was just 3 teams. We had a middle school team, a JV, and a varsity team. So I started in 6th grade. I played all the way through my senior year of high school, 4 years on the varsity team. Made it to the Penguin Cup final my junior and senior year, which we ended up losing both in overtime both years. So that was tough to recover from. But actually, one of my assistant coaches, Sam Jarrett, he's now coaching with me on the bench. He was on that team with me as well. Our other assistant, Parker Fakes, is a Seneca alum as well. So a lot of alumni, in our organization coaching. But yeah, so after that, I went to Slippery Rock and played 4 years, and then I believe it was my senior year of Slippery Rock, I got involved in coaching. I was student teaching. I'm a teacher at Seneca right now, but I was student teaching at the time, and I started getting into, I think it was my first year was an assistant coach for the JV, one of our second JV teams we had at Seneca Valley. So I did a year there, and then after I graduated, I believe I coached 3 years for the JV1 team at Seneca Valley. So I was the head coach there for 3 years, and then I want to say it was 2017. I moved up to the varsity team which we won the Penguin Cup that year. My first year at the varsity team, I was an assistant for about 7 years. And then obviously this year taken over. And yeah, it's been, you know, I've been involved with Seneca for, like I said, as long as I can remember. This is my passion. You know, this is where I teach. It's where I coach. So it's been around me for a while, and I'm proud of where it's come. We now have six teams in the organization. We have a varsity, we have 2 JV teams, we have 2 middle school teams, and we have a feeder program, an elementary team as well. And you know, with just great success all teams are having. All the teams are above 500, so we have a really, really deep program, and it's really blossomed. Like I said, when I started playing, I think we had 3 teams, and it's, you know, we have over 150, 200 kids trying out in the program each year. So it's really grown into something, and I'm super proud to, you know, be able to take the reins this year, and you know, I'm really excited about what we can get going moving this year and moving forward. So
Yeah, and would you be able to tell us who your captains are and what level of leadership that they bring?
yeah, so our captains this year, our captain's Andrew Malichki, and our assistants are Jimmy Murtha and Marshall Hewitt. So what we did this year is we had all the players vote for their captains, and that just speaks volumes to, you know, who they want to lead the team, and who they felt was the best fit. And quite honestly, it was unanimous of who they picked as the captain with Malichki. So that just speaks volumes to, you know, what his peers think of him, and you know, what type of leader he is. And he's really the guy that you know, you look at our team and you look at our work ethic and how hard we want to work every night. He sets the tone. You know, he is in practice, he is working in games, he's blocking shots, he's killing penalties, he's scoring goals, he's, you know, up and down the ice. So he leads by his work ethic. It just bleeds through the lineup. When your captain's out there, you know, diving, blocking shots, and doing everything, all the little things, it feeds down the lineup for sure. And then Jimmy Murtha is the other assistant we have. He's a senior as well. Him and Malichki have been line mates for, I want to say they're going on at least their 3rd year together now. They have great chemistry. And again, he was voted by his peers to be one of the assistant captains. And, you know, Jimmy's a guy that's really stepped up this year as well. He's had a great start for us. Our first, I think it was a game against Pine Richland this year. He had 4 goals, and he kind of just started you know, from there he's been producing a lot. So he kind of brings a little bit more of leadership qualities, I guess, on the ice, and just following his play and what he's doing. And he's, you know, we had summer workouts over the summer that he was there at every single one, and he was, you know, giving his all, and, you know, encouraging guys to get there and show up. So he's definitely stepped into a big leadership role for us that we've been looking for. And then our last one's Marshall Hewitt. He's a junior this year, but he's been on the team. He made it his freshman year, so this is his 3rd year with us. And you know, he is simply just, whenever we need a goal, he's given us that spark. St. Margaret's tournament was a preseason tournament we had. You know, we were down 2-0 in the 3rd. He gets one that kind of sparks us to come back and win that game. There's another game this year late. He ties it up late. We go to overtime. We win it there. So he's you know, he works extremely hard. He's got a elite level skill. So he's leading a little bit differently. I think guys lean on him when we need a goal and we need a spark for our team. He's able to provide that. So those 3 have been really good so far. And like I said, everybody's kind of hopping on, and they respect those guys and they follow their lead. So it's been a really, really good start for those 3, and just kind of leading the group thus far.
It's a lot of veteran leadership coming back here, and obviously you guys have gotten off to a pretty good start as a whole. So your thought, what are your thoughts on the division that you guys are in? For those who don't know, the Class 3A division of PIHL is 11 teams. You guys are right there at the top of it. So how does this division looking this year, and how do you guys feel like you shape up with the rest of it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this division it's a gauntlet. I mean, every night it's teams, quote unquote, at the bottom beating teams at the top. You know, I'll give last night an example. We dropped our first one of the year to a South Fayette team who just moved up from AA. And they are, you know, credit them. they played a really good game, and that's a good team with a lot of good players. And it's just every night, anybody can beat anybody. The depth we have in the league is tremendous, and it's doesn't matter. You just get in the playoffs, whether you're the 8 seed, the 1 seed. You're going to be in a fight every night. And I think, like I said, those new teams that have hopped up, Thomas Jefferson, Franklin Regional, and South Fayette, they fit in just fine, and they're holding their end. As they were AA schools last year that jumped up to AAA, and Mount Lebanon this year is a quality team with a I think they're 8 or 9-1 right now, so they're kind of at the top. And we met them in the St. Margaret's final, and we had a great battle with them. And then you have the North Allegheny starting to get on the rise again, so they'll be there, and Upper St. Clair's up there. So yeah, there's a lot of parity in the division, and I think it's just about our guys understanding that it's gonna be a fight every night. So we gotta make sure we're ready when we show up, that we're gonna get everyone's best. And I think if we play our style and our game, the goal is to obviously make a deep run in the playoffs, and we feel we really have the team that can get over that hump and get there. But like I said, it's going to be a fight every night, and it's great for the league. It's great to see these teams stepping up, and you want parity as a fan, as a coach, as a player. You don't want to have games where it's 12-0, 13-1. It's you want tight games. It's good. It's good to see, and the hockey's been really good. So I'm excited to see what we have moving forward.
Yeah, and with your experience both playing and coaching hockey, what would you say are some variables or sacrifices that come into play with hockey that don't come into play with other sports?
That's a good question. I mean, so I think the biggest difference with high school hockey is we're a club sport. So we're not funded by the school district. All our players are pay to play, and we fund ourselves. So it's not cheap either. You got the ice time, you got to pay for the uniforms, the jerseys. It's the equipment alone. I mean, I'd say that's the biggest difference is we're not a school sanctioned sport, so we are a club sport in that sense. But these guys still they are, without a doubt, they're still part of the school culture and the community there at Seneca Valley. And if you ask myself or any other hockey player or coach or ex-player, I truly believe hockey is the ultimate, team sacrifice, team game. You have every night there's 20 guys in a locker room. You can't explain the bond that happens inside the locker room when you're there every night with those guys. And then you dress 18 skaters and 2 goalies, and what's unique about hockey is all 18 guys that are dressing have to perform. They have a role in some capacity. You look at for example, football, you have your first string, your first team offense that plays the game, and your second string, they might not get in the game. Basketball, you have your starters, you have your bench players. Well, those guys might not get in the game. And in hockey, it's those 18 guys getting dressed, going on the ice. They're relying on each other to have some type of role. Now, I mean, some guys get more ice time than others in certain situations, sure. And that's all, things that we talk about. You got to earn that. But it's such a unique culture of the game where it's just a close knit group, a close bonding team. So it's unique in that aspect. It takes a lot of commitment, as does every sport. But I truly believe hockey is just it's such a specific sport where it's hard to pick up. Hey, I want to start playing in 6th grade, and really learning how to ice skate, and then you add this variable and that variable, and then by the time you get to high school, are you developed enough to get on the varsity team? So it's really about just starting early and trying to develop it as much as you can to get where you want to be. So
between AAA, AA, Single A, and there's even a Division II in the PIHL, there's basically roughly 60 teams on this side of the state. But there's only so many rinks to go around. And because of that, PIHL teams play roughly once per week. Sometimes the schedule deviates a little bit from that. Basically, it's once a week. So how much practice time do you guys get in between games? What does the team schedule look like?
Yeah. So you know what? Practice time this year it's tough because we have to worry about sharing the ice time with other organizations at the rink. So you take that into account. We got the financial part of it. We have 6 teams that we have to share within our organization. We have 6 teams that need practice time during the month. So we try to divvy that all out. And honestly, this year we're lucky if we get 2 practices a week. Each team gets 1, sometimes 2 a week. Some of those are full ice practices. This year we've kind of had to combine practices with other teams, so we have kind of like a half ice practice some nights. So it's tough. I mean, we don't get a ton of practice time, but there's guys on our team that are playing amateur travel hockey, so they're on the ice 3-4 nights a week, playing 3-4 games a weekend. So in a sense, less practice time isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think I'm seeing that early on. The less they're on the ice sometimes is better in a way where they're not getting run down and you're not trying to overdo things. And, once you're there, it makes things more meaningful. So typically we play on Monday, usually it's Monday or Thursday. And typically we'll have a practice on Sunday and sometimes on Monday. So if we play on Thursday, we'll typically practice Monday. If we play on Monday, we'll typically practice Sunday. It's kind of the rundown. Sometimes we'll go Sunday, Monday practice when we can. But like I said, we have 2 JV teams and 2 middle school teams that we have to share with. So it's in an elementary program as well. But it's good for the program. We're trying to get as many teams practicing and on the ice as much as we can. And we understand the importance of those younger teams and trying to develop them to get up to the varsity level as a whole. So yeah, it's tough to not have as much ice time as we'd like, but we've been trying to do a lot of things as a team and just to get together and help the bonding, team dinners and doing things that, together off the ice and things like that. So, but yeah, when we're at the rink, it makes things like, hey, this is our only practice this week. Like we have to be dialed in, we have to be ready to go. So in a sense, I think it kind of focuses the group up a little bit more in that sense. And it makes things more meaningful. So, yeah.
Tyler, your players, you mentioned that the program has a feeder program and then 2 middle school teams, 2 JV teams, and of course the varsity team. Do any of your players play for like a youth travel team?
Oh yeah. In fact, the majority of them, they do. So, and that's across the board. That's, the elementary, the middle school teams, the JV teams, hockey's, it's different in that sense too, where like travel and amateur hockey is huge. And we have players that play multiple teams. In fact, I'd say the majority of them do play multiple teams around the area. So like I said, they're on the ice, 3-4 nights a week, sometimes 5 nights a week. And then they're traveling. Some of them traveling Friday through Sunday playing games. And then they got to get home Sunday. We might have a practice Sunday night. So it is definitely, it's a lot. And I know from experience doing that as a kid growing up, I was playing 2 teams and, I did a lot of travel hockey myself and, it can tend to burn you out a little bit in a sense if you're not careful. So I think you gotta, part of my job too is knowing when to, back off these guys a little if they had a long weekend where they were playing a lot of games and, not trying to overdo it, not trying to overcoach them in a sense sometimes and, knowing when to push them, when to not. So that's been all part of it. But yeah, it's good to see. It's it's nice that they're on the ice a lot, especially when at a younger age, and they're able to develop and bring up those skills as they advance through the program. But yeah, I'd say, in fact, most PIHL teams have a ton of kids that play amateur and travel hockey as well. It's good. It's good that it's growing. It's a big growing sport, obviously, around here. So yeah, it's good.
Tyler, I'll wrap you up here with a simple question. Are you a Penguins fan?
Yeah, big time. Yep.
Derek set me up with this question for a very specific reason, and I had to wait. I didn't realize it until I read the question, and it was because I am a Flyers fan.
Oh, okay.
So
I see. Yeah.
This might be one of the few years in recent memory where I might be able to say the Flyers are going to take the season series. That's about it. That's the only success we're going to have, but we might be able to do
it. Yeah. I think our days are dwindling here, but that's, we had a good run, and that was such a fun rivalry growing up. Pens and Flyers back in the heyday was that was the best. But yeah, big Pens fan. It's funny. I have some family out east that are Flyers fans, so it's always fun to go back and forth with them.
I married into a Penguins family, and the first thing her dad said to her when she was early on dating me is, "You're dating a Flyers fan?" She's like, somehow yes.
Yeah, that's got to be a little hard to swallow, but hey, you put it aside, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Until they play each other, that's right.
Tyler, you guys have gotten off to a great start, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
So you're really gonna have to dig deep for this one.
I brought my shovels.
It's Pittsburgh Philly week, as I texted Jake so nicely about on Sunday evening.
It was very nice, cordial text. Not mean at all.
There's a receiver that had over 150 receptions for both the Steelers and the Eagles. Only one receiver. Who is that receiver?
Get a few minutes to think about that one. Here comes 8 and 9. Okay.
Welcome to Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County sports, whether that be professionally or collegiately. Last night, big news. This is taped on Tuesday, obviously, so Monday night. Juan Soto, MLB superstar, decided to leave the New York Yankees and sign with the New York Mets for 15 years, $765 million. The largest contract in all of pro sports history. I would take $765,000 very happily. $765 million.
I'd take $7.65 right now.
So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts, not only on Soto leaving the Yankees, signing with the Mets. It's not kind of the same brand there, but also on what pro sports contracts have become in terms of money, because it's getting out of hand.
Let me ask you something. We talk about all the time about how, obviously baseball doesn't have a salary cap. And this is what you get when baseball doesn't have a salary cap. The NBA has a players' association. NFL players have their own association. Hockey. How is it that the other three sports have a salary cap and they have unions? How is it that baseball's the outlier? How is it the one of the four major sports that doesn't have a salary cap? That's what I'm curious.
Because MLB, when they first had to recognize a union, they had to recognize when they were forced to by, I believe, Supreme Court. The first negotiation was sans salary cap, and the baseball players union became so powerful over the next decade or so because of all of its they were the forerunner of every other major sports union that came after that. Like, they set the precedent for everything, and they will not allow owners to create a salary cap. Now, owners have created what is as close to a salary cap as they can without actually being a hard cap, but they will not allow the owner, because that is the last hill for them to hold firm on, is that there will be no cap here. Whereas the NFL, NBA, and NHL, I believe those owners learned the lessons of the MLB and were like, nope, the first negotiation we have, there will be a cap. And it's all just to control their own inability to spend wisely. I have zero issues with Juan Soto getting this money, outside of the fact that I think Ohtani should be paid more, because Ohtani is way, way, way more valuable than Juan Soto is as a player that can play two positions. But I'd rather have Soto make this money for laying his body out in line. Baseball's not that physically demanding as football.
$765 million, though.
Steve Cohen is worth billions. I don't give a crap what money he's got to give up. He's not worth that money.
$765 million is ridiculous.
Cohen has probably manipulated employees and abused employees and rigged things in ways to make all of the money that he did, or inherited money from his family in one way or another, like most of these billionaire owners. He does not need or deserve most of those billions that he has, at least Soto does something, produces something that earns him that money. I'd rather all the players get the money than these billionaire owners. I side with players 100%.
Let me ask you this. If you were told, Brendan Howe, you just won the lottery, you won $30 million, what would your reaction be?
I'd be happy.
Oh, no, I'm sure you would. First of all, you called me up and give me half. I realize that. And then if somebody came up to you 10 minutes later and said, Brendan, we're sorry, we made a mistake. You only won $15 million. You just, in reality, lost $15 million. But do you care? You just won $15 million, right? You went from 30 to 15, but you're still fine with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but we're nobodies. We are nobodies. These players that
Speak
see
for yourself.
these players that see their peers getting this contract, I guarantee you, Juan Soto's like, hey, it's not just the money; it's the significance of having his name out here as the highest paid athlete in the history of sports. But I go back to my friend asked me this recently, about a few weeks ago. We were on the phone, and he said, Is a baseball player or a player in any sport, any professional sport, is his job more important than a brain surgeon? I said no, but there's not thousands of people showing up to watch a brain surgeon do his thing 162 games a year. But look, in reality, I do have a problem with somebody playing a game who makes that much money. And I know professional athletes most of them are heavily involved in charities. I think that you should, whatever your salary, especially when you're making that much money, you should be obligated to give a certain percentage to.
But here, I'll counter that though. We put all the onus on players to be charitable. What about the owners? Who again?
Well, the Rooneys are very charitable.
Within what range though? Because now the Rooneys are not the most wealthy family in the NFL. They're old football money.
They're the local team, so that's
yeah. But we put all of this. Look back at the pandemic. Players started paying the salaries of the stadium workers because the owners wouldn't do it.
Well,
and the owners are the ones that will have a lifetime of income from the team that they own and the other businesses that they run.
Okay.
Whereas these players, their main source of income is going to be if most of them are lucky, 5 years that they get to play and make a couple $1 million. Most of them are not going to make Juan Soto money. I don't think players, yes, should be charitable, especially a Juan Soto that makes 765 to 800. He could get some bonus stuff that will bring it up north of 800. But the billionaire owners like Steve Cohen and Ballmer and Jerry Jones and all of them should be doing way, way more. We don't as fans demand that these billionaires do more to help society. We only demand it of the players. But the billionaires are the ones that make way, way more.
Here's the thing. We got to I realize you got this angst against owners. These players would not have jobs if it wasn't for owners owning the teams.
No, the league existed before owners.
You can be as good as you want to be at a sport, but if there aren't professional teams paying the money, you go down to the local park and hit 30 home runs, but nobody's going to pay you.
So who deserves more money? Let's say there's a pot of money that Steelers all get, like the Steelers organization all gets. Who would you say, based on the value that they bring to the franchise in terms of performance and therefore revenue that they bring back in?
My point is, if it wasn't for the Rooneys, we're using them as an example, there wouldn't be a franchise.
But if there wasn't players, there wouldn't be a franchise.
Well, so that you split it down the middle. But I think the owners should give the charity too. Absolutely, obviously.
But what I'm contending is that we as fans, and I say the royal we, not necessarily everyone, not necessarily you specifically, we foist on players this thought of like, oh, well, you have to like give back because look at this money you make. Whereas the Rooneys make hundreds of millions of dollars. They don't play the game, and they will make that in perpetuity. As long as they own that franchise, they will make that money forever until the NFL is gone or we all die in a fiery asteroid or something like that. But like the players,
hopefully they win the Super Bowl before then.
The players have a much smaller window to make this money. So like I don't have a problem with them cashing in as much as they possibly can, because the owners will be able to cash in. Look, the guy Steve Cohen bought the Mets for how many billions of dollars and gave it to the previous owner. That's billions. that guy got
Let me
to
ask
sell
you
the
this:
team.
the just in general salaries of professional players these days in any sport. Is there any correlation between what the players make and the fact that every year the cost to go to a game, family of 4, keeps going up and up and up and up?
It is.
Why? That's the problem I have. I mean, you literally.
I'm not disagreeing, and also like big picture too is, I don't agree that players should be making more than, brain surgeons, astronauts, things like that, obviously. But in terms of like,
I don't really care
it
about
to
astronauts.
siloing it to just sports, you can't compare the apples to the oranges here. Just siloing it to sports. If you're telling me the money from all these TV contracts and everything else can go to the owners or the players, or like some portion of it goes to one or the other, I am 1,000% players should get as much of that pie as humanly possible, because they are the ones who produce the product.
At one point, though, is it too much? Like,
Oh, that's a
first
societal
millionaire
issue.
contract, people are like, wow, this player's going to pay
Here's
$1
the thing,
million.
in
Now
the
it's
end, I will say that it's the owners. It's the owners' fault in the end, because they're the ones that are giving him the contract.
Yeah.
Because the Mets know that if they don't do it, the Dodgers are going to, well, certainly not the Pirates, but there's going to be a few other teams that come in and they sign Soto to that extraordinary amount of money. So they're like, if we want this guy, this is what we got to pay for him. But yeah, it's the owners in the end, because the owners are willing to pay that much money.
Props to Soto, and I hope that the Mets continually languish for the next 15 years.
another thesaurus word.
I know you got 6 minutes until your next meeting, but you got me going down a rabbit hole now of just looking this stuff up and finding this. And Dan Rooney,
He's dead.
but he founded the Mentoring
Oh,
Partnership
sorry.
of Southwestern Pennsylvania, which now serves more than 20,000 kids. He also contributed to the Catholic Charities of Pittsburgh every year for over 35 years. And he even granted 10 Steelers wishes a year through Make-A-Wish Greater Pittsburgh and West Virginia.
I will say
and that's
this.
a portion.
I will say this.
of
Though. We
just
brought
one.
the Roonies up because they're the local team.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I'm biased, but
Yeah.
there are, I guarantee you, there are owners out there that are less likely to hand out money like Rooney did.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most of them are.
yeah. And they each
Yeah.
of the 5 Rooneys own 16%, so a total of 80% of the actual Steelers organization. So, but that's split up between 5, right?
Right.
So it's a good point, but it's right. You're right in the sense that if you're making that much money, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go Jeff Bezos, Amazon. I worked for a hot second at Amazon, and let me tell you something. That was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had to work. It was terrible. When I say that, like, my hands and my feet were hurting, it was awful. And what they were paying us was like, whatever, right? But it's like, this is a guy who spent how much money just to fly into space for how much? I'm like, and we have hunger. We have people who, like, again, I'm going to talk about all these things that we have problems in this country and in this world. And if I had that much money, I would be making more of a difference. So, agreed.
But we'd also wouldn't make that much money because we'd actually want to make a difference in their career.
Don't worry.
Yeah, but it's like live within your means. I mean, if we look at it, it's not that they don't deserve to spend the money that they want to spend, right? But is it necessary? Like, I feel like our purpose on this planet, right? Humanity is if you can help someone else, help them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, why do I have to live in this insane house and do all these insane things
And have chains that are worth more than someone's
have a car that
salary.
like have a car that I maybe drive once a year, right? And the price of that car, what that could do.
Yeah. And
What the price of that car,
Here's the
you could get me.
I'm driving a Corolla
So-
right now. If
Yeah.
if I was a
I was driving.
multi-billionaire, I'd probably get a car that was maybe $75,000-$80,000. One car.
You would buy it, you
Yeah.
would own it, and that would be it, right?
then,
Absolutely.
All right, so all of us covered some recent basketball games, start of the season. Jake, I know you're tight for time here, so what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far?
I've asked this of a couple people. I'm wondering if Butler boys basketball is good, and not just like, oh, they won a couple games, that makes them good, but like, how good are they? Because when I watch them play, the way that I look at this is the mistakes that I see them make are not the mistakes of like indecisiveness that you see from in the beginning of a season. That is the mistakes of like aggression. They're trying to play fast. They're trying to play. They make some passes that most teams aren't attempting. They've got a bunch of playmakers on that team. The mistakes that they make are mistakes of athleticism and trying to make the big play instead of like not knowing what their own system is and not knowing where to go with the ball. That's something that you see from teams in late December and January. It's not something you see from teams in the first week. Granted, they're playing non-section. Their section, from what I understand, is a lot more difficult than what they played against the Obama academies. And Freeport gave them a heck of a challenge in the first half on Saturday, but couldn't kind of hold up it as the game continued. They look cohesive and they're fun to watch. Like it's not a grind to watch them. It's not wondering, okay, where are they going to go with this? It's like, what are they going to do next? And sometimes that's the sign of a good team in high school.
One of the teams that they'll be playing twice this year, of course, because they're in the same section with them, is Seneca Valley, and I just covered Seneca Valley last night. And Tyler Pepin, who's their top returning player from last year, has not played yet because he's nursing a bad sprained right ankle. So obviously they start section play on Friday. The sooner they get him back, the better, because they want to. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and to make the playoffs this year, I guarantee you, Pepin's got to be on the floor for him. Brennan,
we'll see what Butler's really made of on Friday night when I go out to cover them playing North Allegheny. But up to this point, I went to the game last night for the second half at least, just because my sister cheers. It was my night off. Figured I'd go with my family. And that was the first time I can't remember the last time I sat in on a high school basketball game that I didn't have to cover. So I was thinking of that as I was just sitting there like, man, I get to just sit and enjoy the pace of the game and not have to worry about writing down assists and rebounds and getting flustered that way, at least early in the season. But Matt Clement told me at the start of the season when I talked to him that he thought he had 4 guys he could go to, and I think each of them have already had their time in the spotlight in what they've scored or what they've contributed in a game. And Andrew Gettinger is a kid in the games that I've seen, covering them the other night against Kiski and seeing them last night against Bishop Canavan. He's a kid that when he wants to make a basket, he's going to make the basket. Whether that's a three-pointer, whether that's driving in finger roll, he is really impressive, and the guys they have around him, like Jake said, are very energetic too. So I think that they could be for real.
Dave Parker makes the Hall of Fame. We are family. Bam! My answer is Pete Retzlaff, but I think he just played for the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't think he played for both teams, according to Pro Football Reference. The player that had at least 150 receptions for both the Eagles and the Steelers was Gary Ballman. He played for the Steelers from 62 to 66, 154 receptions, 2,949 yards, and 22 touchdowns. Then he went straight to Philly, had 166 receptions for 2,379 yards and 15 touchdowns. You know who that is? Gary Ballman.
I've heard the name. I didn't know he played for both teams. So I suck.
I came with a Paul Howe heater.
Alter Eagles Ion Sports Podcast would like to thank our sponsors, Robert Stevens Jewelers. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.